Hi, I'm Ada Williams and I'm an NHS pharmacist. Don't get caught out by COVID this summer. If you have only had one COVID-19 vaccination or haven't had one at all, you can still get your free vaccine until the 30th of June. Book your vaccine through the NHS app, online at nhs.uk/COVID vaccination or call 119 for free. Hi, I'm Ada Williams and I'm an NHS pharmacist. Don't get caught out by COVID this summer. If you have only had one COVID-19 vaccination or haven't had one at all, you can still get your free vaccine until the 30th of June. Book your vaccine through the NHS app, online at nhs.uk/COVID vaccination or call 119 for free.
Really falling. There are plenty of headlines telling us that they are, but also scientists who disagree. So, what's the truth? Let's find out.
This is the BBC World Service, the world's radio station.
This is the BBC World Service. I'm Johnny Diamond and I'm in the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, a small country of 1.5 million with a huge cultural impact. It's given the world calypso, the steel pan drum, Nobel Prize winning literature, even limbo dancing. But the troubles of the world wash up on Caribbean shores, and this two-island state is deeply affected by what happens in the larger countries nearby. Since its near neighbour Venezuela began its economic collapse, up to 70,000 immigrants have come to Trinidad, separated by only 11 kilometres of sea at its closest point. The huge illegal drug market of the United States means cocaine comes through here from Colombia, and there is human trafficking too. Big challenges for this oil-rich democracy, where the crime level is now the 6th highest in the world. Join us for World Questions after the BBC World Service News.
Hello, I'm Emily Thomas with the BBC News. The United Nations Refugee Agency says last year saw a record number of people forcibly uprooted from their homes by war and persecution. It says there's little respite this year. The UNHCR said more than 108 million people were displaced at the end of December, up 19 million on the year before. Shabir Mantouz speaks for the agency.
Some of the world's least resourced countries are actually hosting the large majority of the world's refugees. So 76% of the world's refugees are hosted in these low and middle income countries. They're not heading en masse to the west or to the global north, but what it really points to is a picture of the need for global solidarity and more responsibility sharing with these states.
Russia has attacked the Ukrainian port city of Odessa with sea-launched missiles, killing 3 people and injuring 7. The casualties were inside a retail warehouse which caught fire. Rescuers are sifting through the rubble for survivors. A human rights campaigner has been jailed in Russia for 7.5 years. Lilia Charnysheva had worked with the opposition leader Alexei Navalny. She told the court the charges were politically motivated. At least 9 people have been killed in clashes in India's northeastern state of Manipur. A top police official there said there had been a gun battle in the Carmenlock area. A number of the injured were taken to the state capital, Imphal, for treatment. Here's our South Asia regional editor, Anbarasan Itarajan.
Tuesday night's attack is the latest in the ongoing ethnic violence in the state of Manipur bordering Myanmar. An official said suspected militants first threw bombs on a village and then opened fire when the residents attempted to flee. Tensions began after moves to give tribal status to the dominant Meitei community. The special category would give them access to forest lands, reserved places in educational institutions and government jobs. But other tribes are worried that they may lose access to their forest dwellings. Thousands of troops have been deployed in the state ruled by the Hindu nationalist BJP.
Japanese police have arrested a teenage soldier on suspicion of murder after 2 people were shot dead and another wounded at an army firing range. The shooting happened in the central Japanese prefecture of Gifu. Here's Shaima Halil.
This live fire shooting training was for new recruits and potential candidates. We understand he was a new recruit, the 18-year-old shooter. He's now been arrested on suspicion of murder. What we do not know is the motive behind this and the chronology. I've been watching local media, including NHK, with experts explaining how tightly secured and tightly controlled these shooting ranges are, especially for the recruits. It still remains quite shocking because gun violence in Japan is quite rare.
BBC News. A court in Cambodia has charged a Chinese couple with murdering a popular South Korean influencer who they insist died while receiving treatment in their clinic. The couple were arrested last week after the body of BJ Ayung, who had 250,000 Instagram followers, was found in a pit on the outskirts of Phnom Penh. Prosecutors think the couple tortured and then murdered her. New Zealand and Fiji have signed a defence agreement focusing on military training and maritime security. New Zealand, Australia and the United States have all increased their engagement with Pacific Island nations recently to counter China's growing influence in the region. Last year, Beijing signed a security pact with the Solomon Islands. An international police operation has dismantled a drugs ring that smuggled cocaine in surfboards from Uruguay to Europe. 3 Italians have been arrested, 2 in Portugal and 1 in Italy, on suspicion of being part of a trafficking group. The surfboards entered Europe via Spain, from where Guy Hedgecoe reports.
Uruguayan police sniffer dogs signalled that there was something suspicious about 6 surfboards that were being sent to Europe. When opened, police found that the boards contained 50 kilos of cocaine. 5 of the boards were seized, but the 6th was allowed to travel as planned, and police tracked it first to Spain and then Portugal. Portuguese police arrested the 2 Italian nationals who picked it up. Another suspect, also Italian, has been arrested in Uruguay.
Thousands of people are expected to gather at Milan's cathedral later for the state funeral of the former Italian Prime Minister Silvio Berlusconi. The influential media tycoon and right-wing populist politician died on Monday. He had been treated in hospital for a lung infection linked to chronic leukemia. A national day of mourning has been declared. That's the latest world news from the BBC.
Thank you very much indeed. This is the BBC World Service.
See as we go through this is that we worked very, very hard for many, many months, in fact, until recently, to ask people, not just Philip Schofield and Person X, but people in production, if they knew something was going on. And it was repeatedly denied by both individuals, but also no one in the team ever said there was anything that they could say. In fact, most of them said, we don't know what's going on.
When did you personally first become aware of these rumours?
I really became aware of those rumours when Philip came out in February 2020. That's when, that is the first time things got really febrile. Social media was awash with some extremely nasty comments about Philip, as you'd expect, but also just a whole swathe of things about him as a person and his, there was a lot of speculation and rumour out there. So in February 2020 is when Kevin and I spoke about it, and we actually started looking at it in December 2019, but it ramped up considerably. The kind of noise out there ramped up in 2020.
What you're basically saying is, like the vast majority of people within ITV, you were aware of the rumours about this relationship, but following investigation that you were carried out and the denials that you received from all parties, you were satisfied that the rumours were entirely false. Is that correct?
What I'm saying is that I don't know if it's the vast majority of ITV. You've named three people, I think, high-profile individuals who say they knew. If they knew, why didn't they say something to Kevin? Kevin has conversations with all of those people as talent all the time. So, number one, I don't know if it's the vast majority of ITV people. I don't accept that. It certainly doesn't feel like that to me. Right. The second thing is, in February 2020, it was hard to miss the amount of coverage about Philip when he came out, and therefore I obviously knew in social media in particular that there was a huge amount of comment about him being gay, how long had he been gay, how long has he lived a lie, there were all sorts of aspersions that crossed over to his brother. There was a lot of very, very horrible stuff out there, and I think we said we need to just establish whether this is rumour and speculation and malicious, or whether there is something we need to worry about here.
And you were given reassurances by both parties that there was nothing to be concerned about?
If it's all right with you, Chair, I'd like Kyla. Now, Kyla is not just company secretary, she also is director, she runs compliance and also whistleblowing in ITV. She's responsible for those policies. I'd like to just go through the sequence so you can see what we did to try and establish whether anything was going on. Kyla.
Certainly. So, we first really became aware that of speculation and social media speculation, which was triggered by a newspaper article on the 6th of December 2019. And in that article, there was a reference. It was an article with many allegations and a lot of commentary about This Morning and about the relationship between Phil and Holly and other presenters on that. But also, there was a reference to a Philip's PA and personal runner moving to a different programme despite a previous close friendship with him. Those were the words. And there was a huge amount of media speculation. Our head of daytime and our head of production on that day spoke to Person X because he was being inundated by press, by journalists contacting him, was aware of social media, and they asked the question at that stage, is there any truth in this? Is there anything that we need to know about a relationship with Philip Schofield? And the answer was a categorical no. He was traumatised by the intrusion in his personal life, and our focus at that point then moved swiftly to duty of care for him and trying to make sure that we could support him in whatever ways were appropriate to handle the social media intrusion on his life. Conversations with him continued in January. Again, the focus on duty of care, but also asking the question each time. So we had HR involvement by this stage, the head of production who has continued having dialogue with Person X over the last 3 years at intervals. Person X and our head of HR for daytime spoke to him on many occasions, focusing on his welfare, but also using the opportunity to ask the questions. I think he was asked the question 12 times, and we have logs of the conversations that were had with him. At each stage, he categorically denied it. When Philip came out on the 7th of February, I believe it was, in 2020, again a spike in social media commentary, and again there were meetings with Person X and questions with him. In parallel at that stage, serious conversations with Philip Schofield and his agent, very direct conversations with his agent, and that was Kevin who can talk to those, also our head of daytime and our editor in daytime. So at each stage we had various levels of management asking questions of both individuals, also of Philip's agent, and in addition, as Carolyn has mentioned, there were various conversations with people on the production floor. Our head of production asked people working on both This Morning and Loose Woman, who might have been closer to Person X, to try and establish were there any facts, were they aware of any truth in this matter, and the answer at each stage was no. So we conducted all of those conversations at that time. No one came forward with any evidence. Straightforward, categorical denials each time it was asked, and conversations continued also in May this year, right up to the day when Philip finally admitted that he'd been lying to us, and at each stage denials. So Kevin, I don't know if you want to...
Yes, when did I first know? I think when Philip decided he wanted to come out, the agents and Philip's contacted the head of daytime and the producer of the programme, and he said, I've been thinking about this for a long time, I want to come out on air, and so that was discussed. And then I think when they'd had that discussion, I was called about it saying, there's going to be a big thing tomorrow, what do you think? And I said, well, if that's what he wants to do, okay. Philip presents the programme Monday to Thursdays. He doesn't do it Friday. So this was on the Thursday, and he came out the next day when he didn't have to then sort of present the entire programme. So he just did it on a show that he wasn't presenting that day. So I went down the next morning to the studio to see Philip, to see how he was and everything. And there were various people around, and we discussed. Obviously, sure, he was really agitated and nervous, and I remember saying to him, look, you don't have to do this now if you don't want to. You don't have to do it on TV if you don't want to. He said, no, this is absolutely the way I want to do it. I've been thinking about this. This isn't a sudden decision. I've been talking about this with my family. It's just the moment now. I want to do it. So I said, okay. Then there was a moment when we were alone, and I said, look, Philip, don't worry about ITV supporting you through this. It's fine by us if you want to do this. Is there anything that you want to tell me now? Is there anything you should know that has prompted this, or that you want to share with us now? Because it's fine, but we just don't want suddenly tomorrow or the next day to hear something we didn't know about and be blindsided by it. And he absolutely, categorically said, no, there's nothing. This is just a private matter, and I want to get it out there because I've been thinking about it for so long. So that was it, really.
So from what you're saying, I mean, it sounds to me like you regard the efforts that you went to chase this up as being adequate. And I mean, I'm not going to put words in your mouth. Did you think that they were adequate? Do you think that they were competent?
What we think about this is that, just remember, there's another very important bit of the timeline, which is on March 2018, all ITV employees were sent home. Because lockdown started, and so this was very close onto March 2020, did I say 2018? March 2020. So it's just quite important that, because then this all stopped, because no one was at work, and actually Person X was put on furlough for 9 months. So it's just an important thing, and over that time, our head of production had duty of care conversations with him, but nothing else. So it's just important in terms of the process we went through that it stopped in March for reasons of lockdown. What we would say is that we had done, we feel, from a process perspective, but also from a human perspective, we asked multiple times of both individuals, both formally and informally. And so we felt that was proportionate to what we had, because we had no evidence. No one brought us anything tangible, either on the production floor or from the outside. There was only hearsay and rumour and speculation. The other thing we would say is that we were very, very concerned about the state of mind of both Philip and Person X. So Philip was not in a good state, as Kevin will tell you, when he came out. Very anxious, very worried, very nervous, very worried about the social media backlash, all of those things. And Person X could not really grasp the media intrusion that was so prevalent in his life now. And so we had to balance how we asked questions. And we did ask them formally. There were meetings. HR was present. So we did a balance of informal kind of, is there anything we need to know? How can we help you? To person X, how can we help you? What more do we need to know? You can do this confidentially, you can do this anonymously, you can talk to a counsellor. You know, just because we wanted to make it easier for him, because you're not used to being in the press as often or in social media when you're in that position. So we were, you know, very mindful of our kind of duty of care obligations, but just as a human being, not making what was a very difficult situation for person X and actually also Philip worse.
It sounds to me as if you're saying that the investigation was thorough and the decisions that you made were well-founded.
Chair, can I please just say it was not an investigation. I wouldn't qualify this as an investigation. I think this was a review. It was an ongoing review that every time there were periods of intense speculation, we went in and asked more questions, but it was an ongoing review.
Would the assertion then leading from that be that if you could go back in time and do it all again, you'd do it exactly the same way and you would probably have reached the same conclusion?
I think that if we had our time again, let's see, I'm not hiding behind the KC, but let's see what the KC says, because that's one of the things we want to learn, which is there anything that we could have done or spotted? At the moment, we can't see what that is, because we did interview both individuals, as I've said, but also other people. We have a very, very clear and loud speaking up policy. We really do. I mean, the vast majority of people, when they reply to surveys that we do on this, say that they feel confident that we will act if they speak up. That comes from a tangible, quantitative survey. So we have done, and we can talk about our speak up policy later, our whistleblowing policy. So anybody at any time could have confidentially gone to our helpline, Safe Call. It's completely anonymous. It's run by an external company. They could have at any time said something about this. We had none of that. So therefore, we feel in the circumstances and with what we had, that we had no legal reasons to go any further with an investigation. If we'd had any evidence, we would have done a formal investigation. We had no evidence. There was absolutely, it's not in our interest in any way not to investigate something that we know has evidence to support it. You know, put it another way, had we gone into, with no legal reason, into a formal investigation, we would have caused a huge amount of damage, I think. The mental health issues around, you know, the strain, instead of mental health issues, let me just say the psychological strain on person X, etc., would have been quite intense. And so we didn't have any legal grounds to do that.
As far as you're concerned, there's no circumstances under which you could possibly have inadvertently or purposefully turned a blind eye to some serious shortcomings at This Morning because it was an incredibly commercially successful program.
It's nothing to do with it being commercially successful. It really, really isn't. I mean, all our shows are actually commercially successful. You could say that about every single one of our shows. There's not a show in ITV, because we're a commercial PSB, that is unsuccessful. So you say that about it. It is nothing to do with commercial success. It is entirely to do with how we were trying to look after people, but we were also trying to ask, and we did ask, questions repeatedly, continuously, and were repeatedly told there was nothing happening. And I also said that as we see it today, our understanding and our information so far is that we could not have done this differently, but if the KC does say and recommend that in future we should do any aspects differently, we will listen, we will learn, and we will act. But today, and there were nobody would be turning a blind eye to something. It's not a blind eye. I mean, nobody here or on the management board would ever turn a blind eye to something as serious as this.
The only thing I would say in response to that is surely you're aware that the same imbalance of power that enabled Mr. Schofield to enter into this, what he called inappropriate relationship, would also be in play if he was seeking to keep that relationship secret. So you need to ensure that you've got in place the systems and processes that are somehow able to find a way around that.
So let us tell you what our systems and processes are to ensure that that doesn't happen, and perhaps you could talk about our speaking up and safeguarding policies.
We'll come to that later on. Actually, we've got a few other questions we want to get to first, but thank you, Clive.
Yeah, just very briefly, listen to those answers. We as a committee are very concerned about the welfare of the individuals that are involved here, in particular Philip Schofield, but most of all, Person X. So could you tell us what support you're giving to them at this moment in time and whether that will continue into the future?
Yes, we've remained in touch with Philip, as you'd expect, and he is receiving counselling. We're just saying that Philip is just receiving counselling, and which ITV are funding, and that he asked for that, and we're very happy to do that. With Person X, there's a whole series of duty of care all the way through. I mean, even though he left the company in 2021, we have constantly given him aspects of duty of care as recently as last week. So do you want to outline some of that duty of care?
Certainly. So as I said earlier, the director or the head of production who was involved in having the initial conversations with him has been continuing those conversations with him throughout, is in contact with him not on a daily basis at the moment but on a regular basis at the moment. We have offered him an ongoing package of support, including counselling. We have given some support when there was media intrusion, physical media intrusion at his parents' home and also in his workplace. We offered support around that, and we've been offering support and trying to help him manage takedowns and social media. So there is a package of support, and that is ongoing. We're in discussion with him last time a couple of days ago.
And we've seen reported, as you've written to us, saying that he doesn't want to speak, he doesn't want any publicity around this, and he wants it really to die and go away, which I fully understand. But if he wanted to speak out, you're not aware of any impediment to prevent him from doing so?
There's no impediment. There are no NDAs, gagging orders. There is nothing in place from our perspective that would stop him speaking out. When he left ITV, he entered into a standard settlement agreement. There is a clear carve-out in that which makes it very clear that for whistleblowing, speaking up, there is nothing that would prevent him from doing so.
Thank you.
Do you share concerns that Philip Schofield's being hounded like Caroline Flack?
I don't want to make those comparisons, although I would say I think he has been hounded, and I think he said himself that he has nothing really. If it wasn't for his daughters, he wouldn't be alive. He said that publicly.
And are you personally, individually concerned for his welfare?
I'm very concerned, yes. Look, I spoke to him the day before, just because I knew that him standing down from this morning was a pretty major thing in his life. I actually phoned him and just said, look, I know this is very difficult, and Kevin has offered you further work, so please don't feel awful about it. There is more, and he was really grateful that I'd called him. He said, look, this means so much to me. I didn't know he was going to say on Friday that he had lied to us and that he had hidden this for so long. But no, we have been concerned about Philip, and we've been extremely concerned about Person X because the level of intrusion in his life is unbelievably awful.
Have you individually spoken to either of them since that?
I've never spoken to Person X. It wouldn't be something that I would do. But I have spoken to Philip, as I've just said.
Have you spoken to Philip since he admitted that he lied about this relationship?
He's just sent me a text saying how deeply, deeply sorry he is for lying to ITV and to his family, and for how much has been caused by it.
I did speak to him. Rather like Caroline, I spoke to him when he wanted to step down from This Morning. I think it was the daily effort of doing a show for 2 hours live every day was the thing that made him think, there's too much noise and I don't want to do it anymore, so sorry. He said, all right. And we said, well, if you want to step down, you can step down. And we did talk about, because there was another show coming up a couple of weeks later, the Soap Awards, that he was booked to present. And I said, are you still okay to do the Soap Awards? Do you want to do that? He said, yes, absolutely. Dancing on Ice is the only other show he does for us, which is in January, once a week show. And he asked about that, and we said, well, don't worry about that now. They're so far away, we can deal with that later, but don't worry. And I think on the record I said he would be continuing to work with us. And then, I can't remember if I actually asked him at that conversation, but there isn't anything, is there, Philip? And he said, but he would have said, no, there wasn't. I mean, it was just 3 or 4 days before he said, actually, sorry, I've been lying all the time. He looked me in the eye and promised me that there was absolutely no truth whatsoever in the rumours of this relationship. And because it was corroborated, I suppose, by Person X, and there had been, through the whole of this, no complaints as such.
Radio show.
On TV about it. Obviously, the rumours and things. I believed him, and I believed his agents and everyone. And then 2 days later, everybody comes out and says, no, it's a lie.
It is important to talk about how many times you spoke to the agent, or that the head of daytime spoke to the agent.
Hi, I'm Adam Williams and I'm an NHS pharmacist. Don't get caught out by COVID this summer. If you have only had one COVID-19 vaccination or haven't had one at all, you can still get your free vaccine until the 30th of June. Book your vaccine through the NHS app, online at nhs.uk/COVID vaccination, or call 119 for free.
Hi guys, this is your friend Uruj from SendWave. SendWave is a money transfer app that is used by people all over the world to send money to their loved ones in Africa. With SendWave, you can send money to Ghana, Nigeria, Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania. And the best part is, SendWave is absolutely commission free. Our exchange rates are excellent. You can see for yourself by checking them out on our website. So how do you use SendWave? SendWave is an app that you can download onto your phone from the App Store or Google Play Store. The app is free to download. After downloading it, just open the app and enter your name, email, and phone number. That's it. You're good to go. Make sure you use the promo code SR. S for Star, R for Radio. This promo code will give you £5 free credit to send to Africa on your first transaction. Your money will be delivered to your recipient within seconds. Feel free to call me on 0749 7377 647 at any time. I'll be happy to tell you all about SendWave and help you in any way I can. Remember to use the promo code SR for £5 free credit. Medasse.
Hi, I'm Adam Williams and I'm an NHS pharmacist. Don't get caught out by COVID this summer. If you have only had one COVID-19 vaccination or haven't had one at all, you can still get your free vaccine until the 30th of June. Book your vaccine through the NHS app, online at nhs.uk/COVID vaccination, or call 119 for free.
Getting onto the property ladder has never been easy until now. Join us this and every Thursday from 7 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. live on the Property Hour Show on Starr Radio UK, where we talk to mortgage brokers, property developers, estate agents, landlord, tenant, property consultants on how to invest or get into the property business and make money. You can't afford to miss this. The Property Hour Show is your best source into the property industry.
Hi everyone, it's your girl BB Clement, the author of How to Go From Employee to Entrepreneur and the host of your weekly business show, BB Means Business, the show where we discuss everything you ever wanted to know about business but you were afraid to ask. How do I start my business? How do I raise the finance? How do I grow my business? Where am I going to find my customers? Join me every Tuesday at 1:30 p.m. on Starr Radio UK to get all the information and tips that you need to become a successful entrepreneur and become financially free. Remember, don't let life dictate to you. Rather, put your signature on life.
Hi, I'm Adam Williams and I'm an NHS pharmacist. Don't get caught out by COVID this summer. If you have only had one COVID-19 vaccination or haven't had one at all, you can still get your free vaccine until the 30th of June. Book your vaccine through the NHS app, online at nhs.uk/COVID vaccination, or call 119 for free.
The best radio show. Broadcasting worldwide, online 24/7.
All around the world. In your car.
At work.
At home.
On your smartphone.
Hi there, this is CJ Buckman, your life coach. And whenever I'm in London, I listen to Starr Radio UK right here. But guess what? You can listen to wherever you are.
This is Starr Radio UK. In your car.
At work.
At home.
On your smartphone.
All around the world. Are you ready to turn it up? This is Starr Radio UK.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Your heart is aching. Smile even though it's breaking. When there are clouds in the sky, you get by. If you smile through your fear and sorrow, smile and maybe tomorrow you find that life is still worthwhile if you just smile. Hey, this is Archie and you are listening to Starr Radio UK and The Morning Show.
This is Starr Radio. This is UK. Starr Radio UK. This is Starr Radio UK.
Welcome. Broadcasting worldwide, online 24/7.
Enlighten your day with Starr Radio. Starr Radio. Radio for the people. Live.
Love for you runs deep. My heart beat. You make a doubt they fade. Jesus, and that's what makes you great.
Okay, let me say massive good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good dawn to you wherever you might be on planet Earth, and those of you on other planets as well. I want to welcome you all to the Wednesday edition of the morning show. Why am I saying Thursday?
And forevermore.
Today's Wednesday, the 14th day of June, the year 2023. Time now 10:37 from the hearts of London. And it is the Wednesday edition of the morning show. Well, if you don't know, you know now. I am the one and only.
This is the morning show. Archie.
Let me say good morning to my team this morning, Mr. Olayomi Koiki. And my able producer, Mr. Francis Guy, making sure pulling all the strings that I behave myself here in the studio today. But I promise you one thing for sure, I'm going to do that. I'm going to hack into his voice and do his bidding, right? But good morning to Felix all the way in Aberdeen, to Kojo D here in the south, Mr. Kofi Ali Abdul Yakin, massive good morning to you. Dr. Martin, good morning to you.
Love for you runs deep.
Mr. Malik Dramani Mahama, I salute you, sir.
All of you makes you mine.
I hope you are doing very, very well.
You make a dawn to fade.
I also want to take this opportunity to say a special good morning to Bishop Adeshina, my bishop himself. Good morning. And to all your wonderful colleagues in that office, I salute each and every one of you. And I say good morning. I hope you're all having a nice day. And may Nigeria never happen to you. Good morning, Olakunle. Shamsuddin Oladipupo, good morning to you. Aziz, good morning. Anthony Adedeji, massive good morning to you. But a special good morning and a happy birthday goes to my baby sister, Delta Hammond, all the way in Ghana. I hope you're not lecturing today. I hope today you are chilling out, lady. Well, she's a busy lady. And we say happy birthday. May God richly bless you. And to some other wonderful viewers and listeners on Star Radio UK. Pastor Joyce Lawson, massive good morning to you and happy birthday to you. May God continue to bless you. Mr. Darren Chogbo, massive good morning and a happy birthday to you as well. And you all wonderful people. If there's anyone celebrating their birthdays today that we don't know, oh, we say massive happy birthday to you all. And may God bring all your dreams to pass. Well.
Jesus. And that's what makes you great.
Share the broadcast with your friends and loved ones and invite them to like our pages as well.
You hold the world in your hands.
This is Star Radio UK. It is your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. So let's crack on. Let's look at what is happening from across the globe. Pertaining to the program outline for today, I'm going to bring you the quote for the day. The weather forecast will follow suit, then the travel update as well. We'll move on from there to have a look at some of the stories making the rounds across the globe, known as Global Trotting. Then after that, at 11 o'clock, we have Olayomi Koiki, who will be joining in to bring you updates from Nigeria. We've got a lot of stories that we're going to be looking at. Hey, but if you miss out anything, don't you worry at all this evening. He will be live on the show with the Niger Voices, current issues affecting Nigeria. We don't continue from dance. At 11:30, lines will be open for you to add your voice to the discussion. Then at 12 o'clock, we take you straight to the House of Parliament for the Prime Minister's question time. Well, there's lots happening, lots of happening over the weekend to today, and therefore, we're going to be seeing what is going to happen on the front, on the grounds, in the chamber in the House of Parliament this afternoon. For you, and after that, we'll bring the program to a close. All of you, men. So in Nigeria, that's what's going to happen today. So wherever you are, don't touch the dial, but rather share the broadcast with your friends and loved ones. We are broadcasting live on all the social media platforms. Let me say good morning to one of my lovely neighbors, David. Good morning. You will never change. You remain. And your lovely wife, Megan, and your little girl as well. I salute each and every one of you there. And all my lovely neighbors, they are all lovely people. Okie dokie do. Let's crack on. Now the quote for today says, success does not just happen, it is cultivated over a long period. It's cultivated over a long period. So are you cultivating? Have you even planted the seed of success, watering it, nurturing it so that it blooms and bears the success fruit? Well, if you're not, then please be reminded you got to do so. Okie dokie do. Now let's move on straight to the weather front. Well, last night some of us were able to sleep a bit. Yes, much better than previous days. But well, what is happening there today for London and the southeast of England is how the weather is going to be. This afternoon, it will remain dry and fine with sunny skies and just a few patchy clouds there. It will cool down a bit for some, but it will stay very warm. And tonight, it will be clear with little in the way of cloud. If any, it will continue to be dry. Light easterly winds expected as well. Temperature 29 degrees, the lowest 13 degrees. Pollen is very high. UV levels very high, and pollution is moderate. Sunset 21:19 and sunrise for tomorrow morning 04:43 hours. This all coming away from Star Radio UK, your favorite African and Caribbean radio station, on this Wednesday edition of the morning show. All right then. Let's break, and then I'll bring you the travel updates wherever you are. Don't touch the dial. Starr Radio UK.
Hi, I'm Ada Williams, and I'm an NHS pharmacist. Don't get caught out by COVID this summer. If you have only had one COVID-19 vaccination or haven't had one at all, you can still get your free vaccine until the 30th of June. Book your vaccine through the NHS app, online at nhs.uk/COVID vaccination, or call 119 for free.
This is Starr Radio UK.
Okay, so keep your eyes on the roads, As we keep it navigated, I promise I'll be on the Starr Radio UK travel update that comes to every weekday from 10:40. It's now 10:44. And what is happening on your travels this morning? Well, for those of you traveling on the underground this morning, I can tell you assuredly, all lines are good apart from the central line that's got minor delays due to an earlier customer incident at Bethnal Green. London Trambling, good service. London Overground, good service. And DLR, good service there. I'm moving on straight to the major roads in London. I can tell you assuredly, no exceptional delays anywhere. So you'll be zooming through it like no man's business. And then on the river bars this morning as well, good service throughout. Also, the London cable car is running a very good service there. But I will bring us straight to the final segment of the travel update. That's the National Rail. So what is happening on the National Rail this morning? My goodness. Well, Avanti West Coast has got minor delays. Cross Country, minor delays. First Transparent Express, minor delays. Great Western Railway, minor delays. London North Eastern Railway, minor delays. Lumo, Scotch Rail, and South Eastern, minor delays there as well. Finally, the Transport for Wales has also got minor delays. That aside, all the others, no exceptional delays. Good service there. And that is why I will say it once again. Say it loud. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good dawn to you wherever you might be on planet Earth. Enjoy your commute for today. But you know what? Continue to keep those eyes on the roads.
Hi, I'm Ada Williams, and I'm an NHS pharmacist. Don't get caught out by COVID this summer. If you have only had one COVID-19 vaccination or haven't had one at all, you can still get your free vaccine until the 30th of June. Book your vaccine through the NHS app, online at nhs.uk/COVID vaccination, or call 119 for free.
Getting onto the property ladder has never been easy until now. Join us this and every Thursday from 7 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. live on the Property Hour Show on Starr Radio UK, where we talk to mortgage brokers, property developers, estate agents, landlord, tenant, property consultants on how to invest or get into the property business and make money. You can't afford to miss this. The Property Hour Show is your best source into the property industry.
Okay, welcome back to the program Starr Radio UK, your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. Okie dokie do. So, what's happening on the global events or global issues? Well, when it comes to Nigeria, this one we're going to be looking at. Poverty shouldn't deny anyone education. Tinubu tells Nance. And President Bola Tinubu on Tuesday in Abuja said poverty should not prevent any Nigerian from obtaining quality education at the highest level. So what is going to happen? Are they going to be getting free education? Or, as he said, they're going to give loans out for people who want to educate themselves? Or how are they going to do? Is it like the system that we have here where we have student loans guaranteed by government and everything? And if you end beyond some threshold, then you start paying for it. But what do you think there? Don't blame me if Senate President Akpabio turned out the West campaigner, Senator Ndumi says. Well, he's wishing bad or worse for what do you call him? Akpabio, the newly Senate President. Was newly elected Senate President. Nigerian Medical Association to embark on indefinite strike in Nasarawa over unpaid 17 months arrears. Now the question, let me ask, have all the senators or whatever in or what do they call them, House of Reps in the state been paid their wages? And they've not. In the past, fine. Then we said, okay, you know what? We are in it together. But if some have been paid and others for 17 months have not received or have arrears to be paid them, then my goodness. No wonder we have all the politicians coming to the Western world to come and get their treatment whilst citizens are wallowing in there. But it's all coming away from Starr Radio UK. Now, 103 have been killed in a capsized boat carrying 270 passengers attending wedding, and others are missing. Yesterday evening or late evening, there was that story that broke there. Very sad one. Our heartfelt condolences to the family of the bereaved ones, and then to those who have lost their lives as well. We say may their souls rest in perfect peace. Governor Ubasani advocates reinvention of Islamic education in Nigeria. What? Is Nigeria a secular state or is it an Islamic state? What is it? Good morning to you, Anthony Adedeji, once again. I hope you are doing very, very well. Okay, so now let's move on to other parts of the world. Looking at other stories making the round this morning, wherever you are, don't touch the dial. Of course, it is the Wednesday edition of the morning show, and you know that when it's happening, we don't have the time, so we just speed through it. Now, Kenya's salvation called deaths climbs to 303 after new bodies were found. This morning I was having a chat with my wife and I was telling her that, I mean, when it comes to religion, some of us are followers or believers. We seem to not to be using our brains at all. So you look at what happened here in Kenya, where people have been lured in to do and then tell you that, well, the only way that somebody can help you to get to heaven is to fast or starve yourself until you die. Where has that been written in the Bible or in the Quran or in any of the books? My goodness. And Cameroonians react to death of veteran opposition leader John Fru Indi. And climate activists denounce COP28 president. Eritrea regions East Africa Trade and Security Bloc IGAD after 16 years. Eritrea has rejoined, Eritrea has rejoined East Africa Trade and Security Bloc. Okay, moving on straight to some other stories making the rounds across the globe. This round happened in Ghana as well. Kedu North NDC united behind Edem Agbana. Back in the day, I remember we had a house help. I mean, one of the guys who was working for my uncle, and his name was Agbana. I remember that name very, very well. Now, EC's insistence not to amend proposed CI reckless and unfortunate. That's what the minority are saying. A showdown is expected in Parliament if the Electoral Commission proceeds to lay its proposed constitutional instrument without amending it to add other identity documents apart from the Ghana card as the sole identity document. Now, we talked about this several times. How do you get a Ghana card? You need a birth certificate, right? Some have been using their passport to get it, but you say no, you can't use that. Can you use your what do you call it? Your best your Ghana card to travel to the UK? Would they accept it? No. Or the US? Well. Lots more going to be coming your way from there. Wherever you are, stay tuned. Don't touch the dial. Let's move on to other parts of the world as well. Now yesterday evening, let me put it that way, Donald Trump was charged with 37 counts of indictment. But we'll see what is going to happen there. Donald Trump's arraignment in Florida court is observed by 2 reporters in Miami. That's how important it was. But Trump is defiant after pleading not guilty in File's case. The former president denied 37 charges related to his alleged mishandling of U.S. government secrets. Now, his supporters have come out to say that, you know what, Hillary Clinton was using her own private mobile or network for doing government stuff. So, if anything, she should also be held culpable as well. And they say it's pointing finger at the Vice President Mike Pence, and pointing finger at the president, the current president.
Oh, are you ready to dance?
So he's asking the question. He's asking the question there. Do you think it is fair? It is fair on Trump at all, or is it one of those things? Is it witch hunt, as he's saying? A civilian is killed in attack on key Ukrainian port of Odessa. At least 3 people have been killed and 13 injured in the strike on the Black Sea port. A picture before me is not one that is pleasant at all. Now, Italy mourns and asks who will succeed Berlusconi. Italians say goodbye to the 4-time prime minister and ask who will lead his party and run his business. You know, at times when you have somebody who's so strong, moving and doing everything, and he doesn't make sure that he's got people who he is training, so that once he's no more, they can take over, or once he steps aside, they can take over. Then we have issues there. But I know, in this part of the world, they see to arrange all those. The Chancellor of the Exchequer says UK has no alternative to interest rate rises. The Chancellor says he will support the Bank of England to do what it takes to reduce inflation. Now they are going on, and I think it's about time that the citizens have to rise up and say no more. They do that, and the workers say, we want our salaries to be increased, and then they will say, now because we are increasing your salaries, so he's going to say that. So the Bank of England is going to, virtually increase interest rates again. Well, there are warning of major disruption and pressure on NHS. NHS bosses worry as junior doctors in England stage a third walkout in their attempt to secure a 35% rise in wages. Oh my God. And students among 3 killed in Nottingham attacks. 2 teenagers and a man in his 50s were fatally stabbed on Tuesday before 3 were hit by a van. This and a lot more going to be coming your way. It is Starr Radio UK. Don't touch the dial. Let's enjoy some music, and we'll be having Miss Olayomi Koiki joining us at 11 o'clock for the updates from Nigeria. So wherever you are, don't touch the dial. Enjoy the music, and I'll be with you. That will be after this commercial break.
Hi, I'm Ada Williams, and I'm an NHS pharmacist. Don't get caught out by COVID this summer. If you have only had one COVID-19 vaccination or haven't had one at all, you can still get your free vaccine until the 30th of June. Book your vaccine through the NHS app, online at nhs.uk/COVID vaccination, or call 119 for free.
This is Starr Radio UK.
Sounds like this. Hey, my God is good. Oh. Hey, my God is good. Oh. Hey, my God is good. Oh.
Well, listen to Starr Radio UK. My Bishop Adesina says Northern Nigeria has adopted Islamism. That is why they have Sharia courts and law. They left Nigeria country and managed their country administration long time ago. The rest lives in denial in Nigeria. Well, so let's break up. Let them have their own country in the north. Let them do whatever. So that if you are going there, you know that this is not Nigeria. This is another, maybe whatever it is. Like we have South Sudan and North Sudan, they are very, so we can say North Nigeria is a country on their own, and then we can step away from there. Well, thank you very much for that education there. Enjoy this one from Joshua Villa. Some African medley there. It is Starr Radio UK, your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London.
Another level.
This is Starr Radio. This is Starr Radio UK.
My God is good. Sing it again. My God is good. Hey, my God is good. My God is good. Hey, my God is good. Come on, you know it. Everything now double.
This is Starr Radio UK.
Enlighten your day with Starr Radio. Starr Radio. Radio for the people, by the people.
Broadcasting worldwide, online 24/7.
In your car,
at work,
at home,
on your smartphone.
This is Starr Radio. This is Starr Radio UK.
Joshua Villa, some African traditional plays there. I hope that I've made your morning so far, or wherever you are, don't tag the dial. It is Starr Radio UK, your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. It's now a minute gone past the top of the hour. That's a minute past 11. And what more would you want? As I would say, it is my singular honor to introduce my colleague and co-presenter, the White Lion himself, Mr. Olayomi Koiki in the house. And I'm saying, Yomi, good morning.
Well, it is a very good morning to you, Mr. Archie. Good morning to our listeners and viewers from around the world. Good morning, Frank. Good morning to all the other presenters. And welcome once again to the Starr Radio UK network.
Yes, how are you and how is the family?
Well, the family is doing very well. It's a very quiet environment at the moment. Apart from, as you were discussing before coming on air, policing, very, very important. And I'll be discussing a little bit of that. What does that mean, to the average Nigerian when it comes to neighborhood policing? I'll be linking that, to, the incident happened in Nottingham. You were talking about that before coming on air. But I can also confirm that 21 people were killed in another terrorist attack in Plateau State. And also, almost 103 people died in Kwara State during a boat capsized. Not a single word from the presidency, as against the difference there, where Rishi Sunak is making sure all the available resources is right there. So when you were talking about Berlusconi, which he died, I'm sure he must have had people that will take care of those things compared to us, that we leave it for somebody else to look after. And that is why businesses are not a long term, especially when the owner died in Africa.
Yeah. I cannot agree with you much more there at all. But well, let's see what is happening there. Let's start from the Kwara issue that happened where people lost their lives. And it's a very, very sad one. If you go for a wedding and you end up losing your life, then it's quite a serious one. But what are the updates from there? And as you said, the president has not actually, sent any message of condolences to them. Maybe he's looking at his the governor in that state, unless of course the governor is not from his party. Yomi.
Well, we've seen mishap happening around the world. I think the latest one I saw was one of the boat crews that got fire with some British citizens as well. So it's nothing new, but it's only about making sure that the safety is there. 103 people killed in a capsized boat that was carrying 270 passengers attending a wedding. So many people are still missing. Our village people went to a wedding ceremony in another village called Boti. They carried boat. The boat carried about 270 people. Whether that is the total amount that boat should be carrying is another thing. What is the safety? And in terms of the weather, we talked about weather here all the time, especially those that love to enjoy the breeze of the summer. And if you're not very careful, you could end up in a very, very sad situation, which also happened in Egypt last week when a young man was eaten up by a shark. Maybe he has gone past the stage of swimming where he's meant to be. We can only pray for him. But this boat went out with 270 people. Half of those people have now died. The police command in Kwara has confirmed that 103 people have died. The accident happened at Egbu village in Patigi local government. Again, when we talk about the grassroots, when we talk about the local government, 774 local government have been following the local government, because we can talk about and say Nottingham is a city, but almost a city in England, with just a population of 330,000, because I did check it this morning. They have what it takes to put the resources there. Do we have what it takes that will have prevented this catastrophe? This is a big tragedy, but like I said, we can only pray. Mr. Okasami said the names of the survivors will be published soon. The Transition Implementation Committee Chairman, Patige Mohammed Lima, put the number of the passengers that died at about 110. Mr. Lima, while quoting from a statement by Abdesalan Bala Muhammad, a community leader in the area, about 110 people died in the boat mishap. We are going to tell you about the tragedy, unforgettable memory that occurred to my people from our village to another neighboring. Sometimes people will say, maybe it's just those little things where it's got to do with witchcraft, but I think it's nothing to do with that. It's just common sense. Maybe that boat was not even in service to have been able to carry 270 people. But we can now confirm that so many lives were lost yesterday again in Nigeria.
Wow, a sad one there. But health and safety, and then as whether that vessel that was being used was seaworthy is one thing. Now I know that when it comes to the Nile, so there are lots of people who ply the Nile. My apologies, I said Nile, the Niger River in Nigeria. For various businesses and stuff like that. When it comes to seaworthiness or health and safety, do you know anything that maybe it's regimental, they try to see to it, so maybe this can be one that I've just gone through without they noticing whatever is going on, or it's something that normally is a norm where things like that do happen?
Well, until incident, these are very remote area. You got to, look at it from that point. And that literally means that, this might be ongoing for some time until incident happen. There are so many things that happen. You remember yesterday we were talking about, the WTO, fishery. So we have people that does move around, trying to do their small little businesses. Whoever was doing that, we can call it a transportation. I remember in Lagos State, you can move with the boat from Ikorodu straight into Lagos in under 20 minutes. But we've seen mishap as well that has happened. The Lagos State government have tightened that up a little bit in terms of making sure that the operators are well putting the safety first before the monetary aspect. But when we talk about that very remote area in part of the Nigeria, there is probably not even a safety. So people were just doing what they are doing until the mishap happened. And we hope lesson can be learned so that we do not have a repeated incident like this again.
Well, listeners, it is Star Radio UK updates from Nigeria with Mr. Olayomi Koiki in our North London studios. I'm Archie here in the South studios, and we are bringing you all that you need to know. So we say, to those who have lost their lives, may their souls rest in perfect peace, and to their families, our condolences there as well. Star Radio UK. Now let's move on to the president, who is saying that, well, poverty should not deny anyone education. So the moment you hear that information or that statement, you ask yourself the question, where is the money? Are we going to get free education? Or as we have it here in the UK, where we have students loan scheme, where you can go get a student loan and then pursue your education after that. If your income goes beyond a threshold, then you start paying it back. If for your lifetime you are not able to get to that threshold, you never pay anything, so nothing happens. But Yomi, before you come to your answer that, hold on. We have advised, that is from Bishop Adesina, we have advised Nigerians to stop using boats except you are from River Rhine area who are used to swimming. The state government who launched their transportation mode don't use it. Interesting. And Olaoluwa says that good morning, Star Radio UK. White Lion, Mr. Archie, thanks for giving us the constant update. Thank you very much for joining us as well. So Yomi, let's come now. You see the statement that this Bishop Adesina has made. So for those of you that said that if you are living it or you are going to use this and then you don't know how to swim, like me, I can't swim. I only swim in the bath. You know, I don't know whether Yomi can swim.
I can't as well.
So you see, so maybe we are not allowed to use that. But let's move on to what we are looking now. The president says that, well, nobody should be denied education because of poverty. What plans has he got up his sleeve?
Well, education in any country around the world is very, very important, and you catch it very young. If you go around your community, whether in any part of England and Wales, you will always say we have space for secondary school, for primary school, and also for the daycare and the nursery. The whole idea also is that the government is there to support it as well. Bola Tinubu signed the new student loan. A lot of reaction has been coming on it. We're going to come back on that in a minute. But, the President Bola Tinubu was with some of the Nigerian Student Association, and he went further to say poverty shouldn't deny anyone education. President Tinubu tells the Nigerian Association of NAN. He went further. Therefore, he pledged that his administration will commit more resources to the education sector, as against Buhari, that never did much, where 8 months Nigerian students were kept in the house. He went on further to say Nigerian child, regardless of their background, has access to quality education. Poverty should not prevent anybody, any child, including the daughter or son of a wood seller, boli, plantain seller, yam seller, from attaining their highest standard of education to eliminate poverty. The president went further to say he received the leadership of the National Association of Nigerian Students at the State House in Abuja yesterday, where there were some kind of discussion. But the question then is, how do we access this education? Let's start from the WAEC, West African Examination Council. I took mine in 1995, and today it has cost Nigerians a lot, for you to get into what would then link you to the university by applying for the JAM. You might think about 10,000, 20,000 naira. It's not a lot of money, but for a parent that is earning less than 18,000, that literally means that if they have 3 children and 2 of them are preparing for after the secondary school to get to the university, they are likely to drop out. Well, is the student loan going to make any impact? There has been reaction. Neferati said, America has a massive job market, yet millions can hardly repay their student loan. Nigeria has 133 multidimensional poor, and unemployment will hit 46%. Instead of loan, Give education grant. I hope you know what the student loan is. New Jack populist agenda to excite the gullible. David Odoye, the man who proposed as an economic solution that will recruit 50 million youth into the army, feed them with cassava and corn, will of course ignore the real systematic solution for education in Nigeria. Instead, offer interest-free student loan to Nigerians. And you can tell the reaction goes on. Dr. Great Oracle, student loan in Nigeria do not help poor students. In fact, they are subsidy for the novel richie who have unlimited access to power. There is a federal scholarship board domicile in the Federal Ministry of Education. Asks, who are the beneficiaries of the scholarship today? With a question mark.
Wow. Quite interesting development there. So I don't know, but like I said, I don't know. We need to get details of that, because like what is done here now, you get a student loan. I mean, you can complete your education, whatever, you get a degree, and fine. Now you have to hit some threshold before they start deducting that money from you. So it doesn't matter, and especially it is the poor who get more of it. If you they look at their household income and it passes some threshold, I mean, you just get a letter, or maybe you might not even get any at all. So let's see what is going to happen there. But those are some of the comments that people have put across. Now, on the water transportation issue, Bishop Adesina has gone on further to say the water transportation mode was solely left in the hand of poor water transporters without improved support and gadgets to aid functional ability of the sector. So I bet you they might not have even a life jacket when the people bought it, and therefore the tendency.
I think you must have been overcrowding, because if they're traveling on one single racketer, ship or boat, definitely we do know that some of these services, I mean, even some of the period of time that Star Radio UK we've traveled to Nigeria, the risk of moving on the road itself, not to talk about the risk of the water, we've seen breakdown of vehicles because they were not serviced, they're not up to date, nobody's checking them, even though the FRC and the other bodies are trying their best. But when it comes to the waterways, it's a very, very dangerous thing, and people have been using it. It's just that sometimes things goes wrong, and when they go wrong, it affects a lot of people, which is exactly what we've witnessed with the death of over 100 people.
Okay, listeners to Star Radio UK. Keep your comments coming through and we will read it. Okay, Mr. Olayomi Koiki in North London Studios. I'm Archie here in the South Studios, and let's go on because there are a few issues that we're going to be discussing. But remember, this evening, if God permits, exactly at 18 hours or 6 p.m. UK time, yes, Niger Voices will be taking place, and where we'll have time to dig deeper, and all your comments and the calls that you want to make can all go on. But well, which are the Senate presidency nomination have taken place, and now we have Akpabio who is going to be the one going to see to it. You need to talk about his track record and everything there. But we have a campaigner who is Senator Ndumi, who is saying that, well, don't blame me if Akpabio becomes the worst Senate president. Why is he so angry or against him? What's happening there?
Well, even Akpabio victory and the rumor of Islamization. Another group is saying, we've been talking about Akpabio, the new Senate president that has now been elected and will be the 10th Senate president. What do we know? The message coming from the Senator Ndume went further to say that he's from Borno South District in Borno State. I say that he will not be held accountable if the newly elected Senate President, Godswill Akpabio, that we talked about yesterday, from a very good background with a lot of people that have been part of the family in politics in the Second Republic up to when he joined as well, turns out to be the worst. He was saying this yesterday in one of the mainstream media. Ndume was one of those who spearheaded the campaign for Akpabio and the Deputy Speaker Basiru Jibrin leading up to the election on Tuesday, but the senator, when asked if Akpabio's performance should reflect on him as one of his endorsers, argued that Akpabio would account for his own. He said, I don't think that is right. I am not Akpabio. If before God, Akpabio will account for his own, I will account for mine. I said he is the best. The majority leader of the 9th Senate admitted, if it turns out being the worst, I am not going to be responsible. How can you hold me accountable? I didn't force anybody to vote. I believe he's the best, but I don't know what he will do tomorrow. I can say that. Indumi also stated that this, in his explanation, is based on what he's saying. Again, you can see that God was mentioned there again. As Africans, we put every pressure on God, whether the performance then end up, just as the former president has appealed to Nigeria to forgive him in the name of God for not doing the needful while he was there for 8 years.
Well, we'll see who will be forgiving who. But, well, it's already okay. Bishop Adesina says pertaining to the student's loan. He said the student loan was a dead project on arrival. Now, 2 guarantors required, one who is a lawyer, second from a civil servant. How many poor people have such privilege? So how many poor people, because you're going to get a lawyer, then you have to pay for it as well. It's a very, very sad one there. So as some are alluding, it's going to be a game or something for the rich and those who have got connections once again. But well, it is Starr Radio UK. Keep your comments coming through and we will read them. 90 minutes past the top of the hour. Let me bring one and then we go back to Yomi for the rest of all the stories making the round. Well, we have Showere who has been on Starr Radio UK a few times, and we followed him during the is it 2019? Was it 2019? Yeah, election time. However, he's come out to say, you know what, I didn't lose the election. Why I didn't lose the 2023 presidential election? What does he mean by that? Because people will think, well, I mean, looking at what he got wasn't. So he said he didn't lose it. So maybe he didn't run at all. Is it?
Well, like you said, Showere is a fan and lover of so many people as against other politicians that you have to fight and struggle to get them to come and speak to you. He's there, when you want him to, he will come and tell you what he feels about Nigeria, what he thinks, is the man of the people in his own way. He's also, the founder and the owner of Sahara Reporter that has been used, to fight the government, far back as Jonathan up to Buhari, and they're still doing the same thing. Why I didn't lose 2023 presidential election? The AAC candidate Showere was speaking in Lagos on Monday at a symposium organized by the AAC Women Wing Lagos State Chapter to commemorate the June 12, 1993 era now known as Nigerian Democracy Day. Showere said there was a selection during the last election, hence Nigerians could not jubilate. Omoyele Showere, the presidential candidate of the African Action Congress in the 2023 presidential election, has said he did not lose because the election, there wasn't no election in 2023. He was speaking in Lagos State. He lambasted the President Bola Tinubu-led government for removing fuel subsidy. Showere said that Tinubu's 2 major concerns are what will only benefit him, stressing that rather than talking to how to end Boko Haram insurgency and banditry in the country, the president was more out to exploit Lagos model of democracy, Agberu, crazy, to Abuja, to nationalize it. The AAC flag bearer said, Tinubu came, he hasn't lasted for 2 weeks. 2 things were of great concern to him, how to punish the poor, and who are the poor with a question mark. The same people who have always been cheated out of the Commonwealth of Nigeria. The second thing Tinubu did was to talk about how to fight to restore oil exploration in Niger Delta. That is the only thing that concerns him. Nobody's talking about how to end Boko Haram, banditry. It is how to exploit the Lagos model of democracy to Abuja, nationalize it, which is the Agberocracy. That is doing in Lagos. So you can always tell Showere is always ready to fire on all cylinders.
Well, Agberocracy, let's see what happens on that. But listen, let's start Radio UK. Today, Bishop Adesina is posting loss. He said that civil servant is no go area. He's talking about the student loan again. He said civil servant is no go area except a member of one's family. Okay, let me take it from here. He picks it from here. He said the way Nigeria works is like this: the lawyer will ask for half or quarter of the loan to admit to sign a guarantor of the poor person. So whatever amount that is going to give to the student who is going for this loan, though it's not a lot, it's going to take. The lawyer is going to take a quarter of it, half or a quarter. Now, it goes over to civil servant is no go area except a member of one's family. Because if I don't know you and you come to me, I'm a civil servant, I might not do it for you. Because I'm not sure what is going to happen. That tells you that the reasons why such projects don't reach the target citizens, but same political figures. And finally, said nothing beneficial from Nigerian government to the inner-city citizens. A sad one, and that's what somebody calls the Agberego democracy that is going on in Nigeria. But before Yomi takes over, now Governor Ubasani has called for developing a framework for the reinvention of Islamic education. Now we're talking about Islamization of the whole of Nigeria, and people have been pulling and pushing, and now someone comes to make this statement that, you know what, yeah, let's introduce that one to the curriculum. Yomi, what do you think is going to happen there?
Well, is the new governor of Kaduna State, and it's almost, as we have said so many times, that even as much as they keep saying that Islamization is not in the agenda of any of the Northerners, the question is, remember El Rufai, was speaking some few weeks ago, last week precisely, and he went further to state that in Kaduna State there will never be a Christian governor as long as they are still alive. So that has literally allowed someone to resign yesterday. We talked about that yesterday. But the new governor, which is on the left hand side, on the right hand side is Sultan of Sokoto, also went further. Yesterday in the headline, Governor Ubasani has now called for developing a framework for the reinvention of Islamic education to align with global dynamics in equipped youth with life skill. I'm a little bit lost there because we know this week is a tech week, so we've been seeing innovation of different stuff happening at the Queen Elizabeth II. We hope we can still catch up, before the event runs out, in the next couple of days. But the question then is, is Islamic going to create innovation? Is it going to create a kind of skills? The governor believes that the framework for the reinvention of Islamic education to align with the global dynamics in equipping the youth with a life skill. The governor made the call while addressing a 3-day conference on Islamic learning and scholarship in Africa organized by Arewa House in conjunction with the Organization of Islamic Conference, OIC. There has been a lot of eyes on the OIC. It seems that those that have been talking, whether through controversy, through theories, have always said that Babangida knew what he was doing when he allowed Nigerians to join the OIC, which is still part of the agenda that a lot of people are talking today, the Islamization of Nigeria. Even though we talked about Akpabio earlier, some group have stated, a group called the All Progressive Congress under the aegis of the National Progressive Org has hailed the emergency of the former governor of Akwa Ibom State, Senator Godswill Akpabio, as the Senate President, saying it's a victory, has put the alleged plot to Islamize Nigeria to rest.
Well, listeners, it is Starr Radio UK, your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London, 11:27 the time, the Wednesday edition of the morning show, and therefore you know that we are pressed with time. But to as many of you on the various platforms watching, listening, we salute each and every one of you, and we say thank you for that support. But let's go to Yomi for the rest of the stories making the round this morning. Over to you, Yomi.
We're just going to go briefly because of the time constraint this morning, and later on in the evening we'll have more time. Speakership, I contested against APC appointed candidate. Wase says there, as we now have the 13th Senate President, Godswill Akpabio. Also, Governor of Kano, Yusuf, demolished more multi-millionaire government house around about. It seems that he's still finding it difficult and comfortable in the eyes of the former Governor Ganjude, and that literally means that more property are being destroyed by this new governor of Kano State. Also, Oil Spill Environmental Tribunal indict oil companies guilty as charged. We've talked about it so many times. But again in Akwa Ibom, the former state of the Senate President, Professor Sofiri Job Petersai, the tribunal judge sitting over the Environmental Tribunal organized by the Kabakeche Women Development and Resources Center, has indicted all the oil companies operating in the region who were accused of gas flaring and spillage, guilty as charged. The Environmental Tribunal sitting at Luton Park Hotel in Uyo, Akwa Ibom State on Tuesday further noted that gas flaring coupled with oil spill has caused untold hardship to the environment of the appellant, resulting in the ultimate death, destruction of the aquatic lives of the community. So we pray that things can be resolved quickly. I'm going to go straight to the social media, like I said, because of the time constraint this morning. But later on, we would have more time when it comes to the Niger Voices later on. But once again, this is still the finest African and Caribbean radio station in London. The hashtag Biafra referendum is trending this morning, and let's see what more is trending. Alan Onyema, the owner of Peace Airways, is trending. He's in London. It's trending. I don't know why they say he's in London. I have a son. He's in London now. His name is Dawson Davido. Wow, it seems maybe that's the reason why that is trending as we speak right now. Davido is a high-end celebrity in Nigeria, but I think he must have said something that got to do with one of his son in London. We know he has a lot of baby mother, and is currently why that is trending. So Kaduna is trending. Let's see why Kaduna is trending this morning, for so many good reasons, I believe. Lima emerges the Kaduna Assembly Speaker. Magaji, the deputy, is also trending. So let's take Bukola Saraki is trending. He was a one-time also former senator, president, but currently with the PDP as we speak right now. Ganduje, the former governor of Kano State, where he and the new governor almost slapped each other in Aso Rock because Ganduje said, I would have slapped him. I hope nobody meet each other where we will see slapping going on. But an excavator demolished a roundabout built by Ganduje, by the governor. Is it for safety reason? Is it for annoyance? Politics in Nigeria is just a bitter one. It will take a while before Kano State find a better governor than His Excellency Dr. Abdullahi Umar Ganduje. So it seems already that both the new governor and the current and the old governor are squaring it out both together. Apia boys are trending. It's about two young boys that were dancing in a chicken republic in Nigeria. They were told not to come back to war. Somebody found it interesting to take them out to Cyprus, but they have now been saying that it looks like they've been abandoned in Cyprus. And I was having a discussion with my wife yesterday. My wife said maybe they should have found something to be doing. And I said, well, we don't know what the immigration status mean for them in Cyprus, because the pastor that sponsored their scholarship to Cyprus, according to the allegation, seems to have abandoned them. And the two young men are saying, we've been in cold, even though the weather is changing now. And house rent, as we know, in UK and around the world, if you're not paying those house rent, ready to also move out. So they are called the Apia Boys. And they are now asking, return us back to Nigeria. Maybe they've had enough of Cyprus. Star Radio UK, the finest African Caribbean radio station in London.
Well, let's say morning or good afternoon to all in Cyprus, especially HRH Linda Pallian and the family there as well, and to this Abia Voice as well. Well, we hope that the state, that's the foreign office, Nigeria's foreign office, will see to that. We will sure that they have an embassy or a high commission there, so I think they'll rise up and see to that. Okay, listen to Star Radio UK. Before we round up our conversation with Ms. Olayomi Koiki, what are we looking at this evening on Niger Voices?
Well, there's a lot happening in Nigeria that we want to talk about. So we'll still focus again on the Bola Tinubu, the student loan, the fuel subsidy, and we believe that this is now almost like his third week in the government. No ministerial post at the moment. He has given 60 days. So the whole focus tonight will be the Tinubu government. What has he done so far that has given Nigerians that hope? Because remember, they started with hope. They started with change. It is now renew hope, and let's hope the hope will last for the next 4 years.
Okay, thank you very much, Yomi. Yes, we'll be meeting you exactly at 18 hours on the Niger Voices.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Bye-bye. Well, listeners, that has been Mr. Olayomi Koiki bringing you updates from Nigeria, from our North London studios. It is Starr Radio UK, 11:33 the time. A quick commercial, and I'm bringing some music, and then we'll continue with the show. So don't you go away. Yes, I'm here. I am Archie, and be ready, because we're going to be firing on all cylinders.
Hi, I'm Ada Williams and I'm an NHS pharmacist. Don't get caught out by COVID this summer. If you have only had one COVID-19 vaccination or haven't had one at all, you can still get your free vaccine until the 30th of June. Book your vaccine through the NHS app, online at nhs.uk/COVID vaccination, or call 119 for free.
Enjoy this tune from the Root Riders, cover version of Bob Marley's tune. Get up, stand up for your rights. All right.
Get up, stand up for your rights. Get up, stand up. Don't give up the fight. Get up, stand up. Stand up for your rights. Get up, stand up. Don't give up the fight. Reach up and don't tell me the heaven is on the earth. I know you don't know what life is really worth. It's not all that glitters is gold. All these stories have never been told. Now you see the light. I want you to stand up for your right. Get up, stand up. Stand up for your rights. Come on, get up.
You are listening to Starr Radio Morning.
Don't give up the fight. Get up, stand up.
Broadcasting worldwide, online 24/7.
Okay, listeners, Starr Radio UK, your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. Get up, stand up for your right. So don't let anyone trample upon you, and don't be marginalized. Yes, you gotta rise up for yourselves wherever you might be. As I did say, it is a Wednesday edition of the morning show, so we always press with time when it comes out, because at 12 o'clock we'll be taking you to the House of Parliament for the Prime Minister's question time. Okay, so let me announce the lines open. If you hop in, I'll allow you. Then at 12 o'clock we will just cross over to the PMQ. Okay, so you want to call in 02081 332257 or 58 02081 332257 or 58. Now, if you happen to be in the US, Canada, or the Caribbean area, it is 001-718 3032737 001-718 3032737. Also, you can text or WhatsApp at 07539661744 07539661744. Our Twitter handle is at Starr Radio UK. Yeah, our email address is info@starradiouk.com. All right, then. So let's hear from you. Let's hear from you wherever you might be. But now let's move on. Quick one. Now, if you have not taken your vaccine or for the COVID, well, you have up to the end of June, like the 30th of June, for you to get a free vaccine. For those of you who have had one jab, you want to go get a top up, or if you've not had any at all, it's being offered till the 30th of June. Okay, so you are being informed. Take advantage of that. What about that? All right then. Well, when it comes to some of the stories making the rounds in other parts of the world, a quick one will be running like no man's business. The number of people who died after a Kenyan pastor ordered his followers to starve to death in order to meet Jesus has surpassed 300. Now, authorities said this Tuesday warning that the death toll is expected to rise as more exhumations are planned. The death toll increased to 303 after 19 more bodies were recovered from mass graves in the vast forested land in Kilifi County of coastal Kenya, where Pastor Paul Mackenzie and his followers leave. Nakosa Regional Commissioner Rhoda Oyancha said that 613 people that tied to the area are missing. On Monday, 65 of the 95 parishioners whom authorities said they rescued from property were charged with attempting suicide after they staged a hunger strike to protest being held at a shelter. They were moved to a jail. Now, you have to understand that psychologically they've been affected by whatever thing that is going on. Therefore, they need help, not chucking them into a jail. They need help. They've been brainwashed. So you have to now use another to actually unwash whatever that has been washed over them. Let me put it that way. So I think the authorities will have to have a real look at their means or their ways of trying to address this issue. Well, it is all Starr Radio UK. In Cameroon, now distraught and in mourning, Cameroonians are reacting to the death of John Fru Indi, the historic opponent of President Paul Biya, the leader and founder of the Social Democratic Front, that's the SDF. The main opposition party in parliament died Monday at the age of 81 after a long illness. Fru Indi challenged Biya in the presidential elections in 1992, 2004, and 2011, coming second each time. Ni John Fru Indu for the SDF was the guide. That is to say, the man who traced the furrow along which we walk, the man who against all odds imposed and the return to a multi-party system in Cameroon and on 26th of May 1990, and with it a set of individuals and collective freedoms granted to the entire Cameroonian people. Marcel Tadejo, chairman of the Douala 5 SDF electoral constituency, said to our correspondent there. I would say may his soul rest in perfect peace, and may what he stood up for be held in high esteem, and people continue to fight for that as well. 20 minutes to the top of the hour at a time. Starr Radio UK, the station, the morning show, the program. I am Archie, and let's look at some of the other stories making the rounds on the African continent when it comes to Ghana. Now, your lawsuit can't stop people's choice. Apak to Ken Kuranche. Okay? And Botiano killing. Adam Bona welcomes parliamentary probe. Cautions against live telecasts. A new Accra Central bulk supply point power delivery, a game changer. That's what Gridco board chair has said. Now, call for my removal, unwarranted allegations, baseless. Upper East Regional Minister is saying, and Defense Minister CDS storm court as contempt conviction against them set aside over land disputes. Now, let me touch on that one first, and then we continue. The Minister for Defense, Dominic Nitiwu, and the Chief of Defense Staff of the Ghana Armed Forces, Vice Admiral Seth Amuama, have escaped sentencing after they were convicted for contempt by the High Court in Accra. After being found guilty for contempt, convicted, and a date fixed for sentencing, the Minister and the CDS, through the Attorney General Godfrey Yabuadame, filed a motion to have the conviction on the entire proceeding set aside. This was after the Attorney General had raised jurisdictional concerns and the fact that the respondents were not personally served with contempt application. Now, Jonathan Ogbodaisai, an estate developer, filed an application for contempt against the minister and the CDS after the High Court had entered judgment in his favor on November 1, 2018. Despite having judgment in his favor, he contended that the military was still interfering with the portions of the land that the court judgment covered against the minister, the CDS, and the Attorney General. As a result, he initiated a contempt application against the minister and the CDS, which succeeded, with the respondents, minister and CDS, convicted for contempt. With the matter coming to the attention of the Attorney General when a court had fixed date for sentencing, an application to have the conviction and the entire contempt proceedings set aside was moved. Now, counsel for the applicants, led by lawyer Charles Amon Kote, opposed to the application and urged the court to dismiss the application. The High Court in Accra, presided over by Justice Nabila Naima Wahab, after listening to the parties, said when a matter of jurisdiction succeeds, the court cannot proceed with its sentencing. The court said it renders the entire proceedings a nullity before setting aside its conviction and entire contempt proceedings. Information coming through says that Murtala Inusa, who was in court, reports that a cost of 1,000 Ghana cedis was awarded against Jonathan Ogbodai's side, the applicant. All right then, listeners, it is Star Radio UK. It is your favorite African and radio station in London. And someone asked the question, so are some people men higher or untouchable when it comes to the rule of law? That a member of parliament for Bolsa South, Dr. Clement Apak, has said the editor-in-chief of the Daily Searchlight newspaper, Kenneth Kranche, the interpretation is seeking from the Supreme Court cannot stop the People's Choice in 2024 general election. The editor-in-chief of the Daily Searchlight, Kenneth Kranche, has filed a suit at the Supreme Court seeking interpretation on whether former President John Mahama can seek re-election. Among what Mr. Kenneth Kranche wants from the Apex Court include a declaration that on a true and proper interpretation of Article 66, subsection 1 and 2 of the 1992 Constitution, a person seeking a second presidential term must be a sitting president. A declaration that on a true and proper interpretation of Article 62 of the 1992 Constitution, a former president of Ghana is not qualified to seek election as president of Ghana. Commenting on the matter, the Bolsa South lawmaker indicated that former president John Mahama will win the 2024 election with a majority in parliament. This lawsuit can stand in the way of the people's choice. It only confirms what? Okay, let me take it again. This lawsuit can't stand in the way of the people's choice. It only confirms what Ghanaians know. Your MPP morbid fear of JM. All right then. So let's bring that one to bed there. But what do you think? What do you think? What do you think? With the way the country has been run so far, somebody say, what do you think is going to happen there? All right then. Star Radio UK, your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. Let's move on to other parts of the world and let's see what is happening there as well. Well, information coming through this morning talks about the Ukraine key port of Odessa that has been attacked by the Russians once again. And the story says one of the top commander of the Chechen paramilitary group fighting in Ukraine has been injured, according to Russian military. Now, Adam Demlikhanov was wounded but still alive, according to a post from Zvezda TV, which is run by Russian Defense Ministry. It cited information from the press office of the Duma, that's Russia's lower house of parliament, of which the Limkhanov is also a member. The circumstances remain unclear, and information coming through on because we are not able to verify. The report says Zvezda later quoted the Duma speaker as saying that the Limkhanov was alive and well. Ukraine considers the Limkhanov to be the head of the Chechen volunteer units fighting in Ukraine and a close ally of Chechen leader Ramzan Kadyrov. Now, Kadyrov himself wrote that he could not contact the Limkhanov and asked for help finding his dear brother. On Monday, the Russian Defense Ministry signed a contract with the Chechen paramilitary unit to bring it under direct control. It's all coming away from Star Radio. At least 3 people have been killed, and in a relatively rare Russian attack on the Black Sea port of Odessa, and 3 others have died after strikes in the eastern Donetsk region. Russian forces are also accused of killing civilians in a vehicle in the northeastern Sumy region yesterday. Though Moscow is yet to comment on any of the fresh allegations, last night Russian President Vladimir Putin claimed Ukraine's counteroffensive was failing, with its army suffering major losses. The Ukrainians say their troops have recaptured 7 settlements and at least 19 square kilometers, that's 35 square miles, since the maneuver got underway. Now, Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky insisted last night that there was movement forward, and researchers have acknowledged limited territorial gains there. It's all Star Radio UK. Now, some story coming through. Officials acknowledge a report of Russian general's death. That report of an injury to a Chechen commander comes after yesterday's claim that a top Russian officer had been killed in Ukraine. The apparent death of Major General Sergei Goyachev was reported on Tuesday by pro-Kremlin military blogger Yuri Kotenok. The Russian installed official in an occupied area of Ukraine later acknowledged that the report offering his condolences. The army has lost one of its brightest and most effective military commanders who combine the highest professionalism with personal courage. The Kremlin is yet to confirm Goyachev's death, and we have not been able to verify that as well. It's all coming away from Star Radio UK. It is your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. Well, Donald Trump has pleaded not guilty to historic charges of mishandling sensitive files at a federal court in Miami, Florida. Now, Mr. Trump is the first U.S. president, current or former, to be hit with federal criminal indictment. Now, arms crossed, in a dark suit and red tie, he sat in stone-faced silence for his second court appearance this year. The Republican later traveled to his golf club in Bedminster, New Jersey, where he addressed supporters. Against backdrop of American flags, Mr. Trump, who is a front-runner for the 2024 Republican presidential nomination, struck a defiant tone and told the assembled crowd he had every right. He told the classified documents he hold the classified documents, but hadn't had a chance to go through all the boxes. He said he followed the law and went on to list series of unsubstantiated claims as well as grievances against President Joe Biden and his former rival Hillary Clinton. Earlier in the day, before leaving Miami, Mr. Trump on his social media platform Truth Social thanked the city for such a warm welcome on such a sad day for our country. Just hours before, in a 13th floor room of a federal courthouse in downtown Miami, a somber, subdued Mr. Trump looked on while his lawyers entered a plea of not guilty on 37 counts of illegally retaining classified documents and obstructing the government efforts to get them back. We most certainly enter a plea of not guilty, the attorney Todd Blanche told the judge. Well, with the others, when they were asked, they voluntarily released them, gave them out. But he decided, no, I don't want to, and doing everything possible to hold it. And that is what it's been said there, that actually he was putting impediments away for the security agencies to get all that information from him. Well, he said, you know what? I have the right as a president to take those things because I've declassified them. Really? Is that how it works? Well. He's got another law for himself and a different one for every other. So let's see what is happening there, and let's see what is going to happen as the time unfolds. But it's all coming away from Star Radio UK. Now, a sad story. The third victim of the Nottingham attacks have been named as a school caretaker, Ian Coates, who was found stabbed to death on Tuesday. It's thought the suspect then stole his van. And then the students among 3 killed in Nottingham, 2 teenagers and a man in 50s were fatally stabbed on Tuesday before the 3 were hit. 3 were hit by a van as well. But well. Let me bring you this one before I bring you a breaking story that is making the round. The UK has no alternative but to hike interest rates in a bid to tackle rising prices, the Chancellor has said. Jeremy Hunt said inflation, the rate at which prices rise, was the number one challenge we face. He said the government will be unstinting in our support for the Bank of England to do what it takes to slow inflation. Now, rising interest rates and mortgage costs weighed on UK economic growth in April. Now, while the economy grew by 0.2%, the Office of National Statistics said the house builders and estate agents had a poor month. Now, borrowing costs have been steadily rising since December 2021 to a current 4.5% in an attempt to slow consumer prices inflation, which stands at 8.7%. This is more than 4 times the Bank of England's 2% inflation target. In theory, raising interest rates means it is more expensive for people to borrow and they have less money to spend. Now, consequently, they will buy fewer things, which should slow the rates of rising prices. My apologies. So why don't they mix create automatic scarcity there for us, so that we don't have enough to go around, and therefore when I go to the shop I want to go and buy food, there will no food for me, and therefore I don't have anything. So I have the money, I cannot buy anything. What about that? Well, they seem to be doing whatever they want. But what do you think about all that? It's all come your way. Borrowing costs have been steadily rising since December 2021 to a current 4.5% in an attempt to slow consumer price inflation, which stands at 8.7%. This is more than 4 times the Bank of England's 2% inflation target. In theory, raising interest rate means it's more expensive for people to borrow and they have less money to spend. Consequently, they will buy fewer things, which should slow the rate of pricing. An increase in interest rate means higher monthly mortgage, credit card and loan payments for some people, although higher rates should benefit savers if banks pass it on to their customers, and that is if banks pass it on to their customers, which we never see. So you go there and you get some small percentage increase on it. You ask yourself, what's the point in saving that money there? But well, they're doing everything to tackle that. But how will this come back to bite the backside of the Conservative Party? Or yes, and this afternoon, as I did say, we'll be taking it to the House of Parliament, where it's all going to be unfolding. A final story. Now, Police Scotland has announced the appointment of its first female chief constable. Joe Farrell will replace Sir Ian Livingston, who is retiring in August. Miss Farrell was appointed by the Scottish Police Authority, and that is a breaking news that is coming through. So, on that note, let me say it once again. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good dawn to you. I hope you've had a very nice time with us this day, and I hope your day goes well. And as we saw on this platform, may Nigeria not happen to you. But remember, exactly at 18 hours or 6 p.m. BST, yes, we'll be bringing you Niger Voices with Mr. Olayomi Koiki, where you'll be looking at all the stories, the current issues going on in Nigeria, as the new president who has been sworn in and in his getting to his 3rd week. Yes, it was sworn in on the 29th. So getting to his 3rd week. What hope has it given to Nigerians with all these promises that it's making? How is it going to benefit the poor in society? You want to know more? Stay tuned, and Yomi will be telling you more, and everyone will be joining in. But let's take this commercial break, and after that I bring some music and I take you to the House of Parliament for the Prime Minister question time. It's been me, Archie, and I say I love you all to bits, and thanks for joining me once again. Bye bye for now.
Hi, I'm Ada Williams and I'm an NHS pharmacist. Don't get caught out by COVID this summer. If you have only had one COVID-19 vaccination or haven't had one at all, you can still get your free vaccine until the 30th of June. Book your vaccine through the NHS app, online at nhs.uk/COVID vaccination, or call 119 for free.
I know you don't know what life is really worth. yours on earth. Now you see the light. I want you to stand up for your rights. Stand up. Stand up for your rights. Everybody.
This is Starr Radio. This is Starr Radio UK. This is Starr Radio UK.
That to show international leadership, they really need to get their act together at home. Mr. Speaker, as my right honourable friend the Prime Minister set out this week at London Tech Week, we will be leading at home, we will be leading overseas, and we will be leading change in our public services. That is the right approach. It is pro-innovation. We will capture those benefits for British businesses and British citizens, and I think Labour could do an awful lot better than what they've just presented.
Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Speaker. On the 30th of December 2020, during the pandemic, the then Prime Minister met the Vice Chancellor of the University of Oxford and promised £150 million in funding for that university's Pandemic Sciences Institute. In evidence to the Science and Technology Select Committee this morning, the Institute's director, Sir Peter Horby, has said not a penny of that money has been received. So will the Secretary of State meet with me to see how we can unblock this so this vital work continues?
Minister.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I'd be very happy to meet with the Chair of the Select Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This Tech Week I pay tribute to King's Maths School in my constituency who provide tutoring for 16 to 19-year-olds. In 2020, the government promised 300 million for mathematical research, but now, despite all of that, it's abandoning this commitment. So when does the Minister expect Britain to stay competitive, and when can they guarantee this funding?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, as the Prime Minister's made clear, we're putting maths at the heart of our curriculum, and I, as Minister for Research, am making sure that maths is properly funded to our research ecosystem. I'll happily meet her and talk to her about it.
Britain is rightly regarded as a technological and science superpower, but the foundations of our science and technology is on technicians and their work and their contribution. So what more can my honourable friend do to give them more recognition and more status and even more funding to carry on the work they do?
Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The honourable friend from Bolton West, he has a formidable reputation himself in championing us, having worked in that area as well. We are increasing investment in further education by £3.8 billion over this course to this part of this Parliament, because we need technicians to access high quality training.
We now come to Prime Minister's questions. Lynn Brown.
Number one, Mr. Speaker.
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I know the whole House will want to thank the emergency services for their ongoing response to the shocking incident in Nottingham yesterday. Our thoughts are with those injured and with the families of those who lost their lives. Today is also the 6th anniversary of the Grenfell Tower fire. We remember the 72 people who lost their lives and remain as committed as ever to ensuring that such a tragedy can never happen again. Mr. Speaker, this morning I had meetings with ministerial colleagues and others. In addition to my duties in this House, I shall have further such meetings later today.
Lynn Brown.
Grateful, Mr. Speaker. Can I associate myself with the words of the Prime Minister? Our hearts are with the City of Nottingham, and we also remember those 72 killed at Grenfell and support those still fighting for justice and safe homes. According to the Office of National Statistics, in January, food prices were rising at 16.8% a year. The most recent figures show food prices rising by a whopping 19.1%, making a mockery of his pledge to halve inflation. Does he honestly think people won't notice?
Mr. Speaker, of course I acknowledge that the cost of living is rising for families, and that's why my first priority at the beginning of the year is to halve inflation. I'm pleased to say that inflation is now falling, and in the latest set of estimates we remain on track to do so. With regard to food prices, we're not alone in experiencing high food price inflation like many other countries in Europe. That's why the Chancellor has already spoken to the CMA, who are looking at the grocery industry, and we continue to support families with the cost of living, notably by paying half of their energy bills.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, it's a fact that Labour have never left government with unemployment lower than when they came in. And figures released yesterday show that there are now 4 million more people in work than when Labour were last in power. Does the Prime Minister agree that the security of a good job will always be better than Labour's dependency culture?
Mr. Speaker, my honourable friend is absolutely right to point out Labour's poor record on jobs, and yesterday's figures showed that the UK economy is resilient, with the number of people in employment now at a record level, Mr. Speaker. By no means complacent, but the inactivity rate continues to fall and the unemployment rate remains at historically low levels. That is a Conservative government delivering for our country.
We now come to the Leader of the Opposition, Keir Starmer.
I join with the Prime Minister in his comments about the terrible attack in Nottingham yesterday and in tribute to the work of our emergency services. The thoughts of the whole House are with the victims and the people of that great city. I also join him in remembering the 72 people who lost their lives in the Grenfell Tower fire. The victims and their families are always in our hearts, but 6 years on, the justice they're fighting for is long overdue. Mr. Speaker, all across the country, people are worried about their bills, the price of the weekly shop, and the spiralling mortgage rates. So why has the Tory party spent this last week arguing over which of them gets a peerage?
Prime Minister.
Well, Mr. Speaker, my points on this are very clear. In line with a long-established convention of previous Prime Ministers having the ability to submit honours, I followed the process to the letter in convention with long-standing process. It is, by the way, Mr. Speaker, a long-standing convention that Prime Ministers on both sides of this House have followed in the same way that I did.
Keir Starmer.
Mr. Speaker, the truth is, for all his tough talk after the event, the Prime Minister did sign off the honours list. Yeah. And that means, Mr. Speaker, that those who threw a Downing Street party the night before the late Queen sat alone at her husband's funeral will now receive awards from the King. If he's so tough, why didn't he block it?
Mr. Speaker, as I said, I and the government follow due process and convention. Prime Ministers of both parties have always upheld the convention of non-interference on political honours. My predecessors may not have agreed with Labour's choices of Tom Watson or Shami Chakrabarti, but the same precedent, Mr. Speaker, the same precedent stood then as it does now, and I'd expect a knight like him to understand that.
I think we will have more if we carry on. It'll be more outside rather than in here. Keir Starmer.
Honour should be for public service, not Tory cronies. Mr. Speaker, isn't this the case? He was too weak to block Johnson's list. And that also means that those who spent their time helping cover up Johnson's law-breaking are rewarded by becoming lawmakers for the rest of their lives. Is his message to the British public, if you don't like it, tough?
Mr. Speaker, it's right that we use the honour system to recognise people, almost 2,000 people a year, from members of the England Lionesses team to the first Asian police officer in Greater Manchester. But he talks about putting people in the House of Lords. Perhaps he could explain why he put forward for a peerage the former MP, Labour MP Tom Watson, who spread vicious conspiracy theories that were totally and utterly untrue, damaged public discourse and inflicted misery on innocent people.
Quiet. Can I just say to the Prime Minister, you shouldn't criticise other members. Also, you're not responsible for the other parties. You are the Prime Minister that's answering the questions, not asking the questions. Here's some. Order. Is somebody wanting to challenge my decision? Keir Starmer.
Mr. Speaker, the truth is the country is paying the price of this endless cycle of chaos and distraction. The Tory economic crash means that millions of mortgage holders will pay thousands of pounds more next year, and the blame lies squarely at the door of a government more focused on the internal wars of the Tory party than the needs of the country. Does he not think that those responsible should hang their heads in shame?
Mr. Speaker, as I said right at the beginning of the session, our number one economic priority is to reduce inflation so that we can restrain the increase in interest rates. But one thing we know that we need to do that is to reduce our borrowing and debt, Mr. Speaker. That's how we will bring interest and mortgage rates down. But last week, what did we see? Labour confusion with the Shadow Chancellor attempting to water down their plans to borrow £28 billion more a year. But she was promptly overruled by the Shadow Energy Secretary, the former leader, who said that they were 100% not abandoning their pledge. It really looks like Labour's offer never changes. It's uncontrolled borrowing and more chaos with Ed Miliband.
There's only one party. There's only one party that broke the economy. They're sitting right there. And there's a reason they can't fix the problems facing the country, because they never take responsibility for the damage that they've done. And it's not just Johnson. The Prime Minister's immediate predecessor is hoping to reward those who made her reign such a rip-roaring success. On her honours list are the masterminds of that kamikaze budget, the economic extremists of the Institute of Economic Affairs, those whose disastrous ideas crashed the economy and left the country to pick up the pieces. Will the Prime Minister block that honours list, or will he buckle to her as well?
Mr. Speaker, if you want disastrous economic ideas, all you have to do is Labour's economic policy on energy. I mean, it's an energy policy that seeks to ban all new British oil and gas drilling, Mr. Speaker, jeopardising 200,000 jobs and our energy security at a time of international conflict. Despots like Putin are the only people who will welcome such a policy. His predecessor once said that he wanted British jobs for British workers. His policy is British jobs for Russian workers.
Keir Starmer.
Mr. Smith, if he spent as much time focused on the economy, the NHS and the asylum system as he does haggling with his predecessors about who gets honours, the country would be in a far better state. But once again, he's lost control, and once again, it's working people paying the price. And if he disagrees with that, why not put it to the test? End the boasting, the excuses, the Tory chaos, see if he can finally find somebody, anybody, anywhere to vote for him, and call a general election now.
Mr. Speaker, he talked about asylum just this week. It was the Labour Party that voted against plans to tackle illegal migration. Just this week, it was the Labour Party that voted against plans to tackle disruptive protesters by their funding eco-zealots, Mr. Speaker. But we're getting on and delivering for the country. We're delivering record employment and the fastest wage growth in years, Mr. Speaker. It's clear only the Conservatives are going to deliver for the people of Britain.
Mr. Speaker, crime is down significantly and falling. Police officer numbers are at an all-time high. But the police funding formula remains elderly and out of date and penalises counties like my own of Hampshire to the tune of many millions of pounds. Previous administrations have made the commitment that a new police funding formula would have been in place by the general election. Can I invite the Prime Minister to make the same commitment, please?
Prime Minister. Well, Mr. Speaker, recognise that the current police funding formula no longer accurately reflects demands on policing, and that is why the review is carefully considering local factors for each police force. Our priority is to deliver a robust, future-proof funding formula, but it is important that we take the time to get that right, and I know that the Home Office will continue to keep the House updated on our progress.
We now come to the Leader of the SNP, Stephen Flynn.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would just like to echo the sentiments of the Prime Minister and indeed the Leader of the Opposition in relation to the terrible incident in Nottingham, and indeed our thoughts are with all of those still reeling from the tragedy at Grenfell all these years later. Mr. Speaker, during his ill-fated leadership bid late last summer, the Prime Minister warned of the perils of mortgage rate rises. Indeed, he stated, and I quote, "It's going to tip millions of people into misery, and it's going to mean we have absolutely no chance of winning the next election." Given that mortgage rates continue to rise, does he still agree with his own electoral analysis?
Mr. Speaker, which is absolutely why our economic policy sets as our number one priority to reduce inflation and thereby bring interest rates, which, by the way, Mr. Speaker, have also risen in pretty much every developed economy around the world, more so in places like America and New Zealand, similar in other countries as well, like Australia. But it is important, in order to reduce inflation, that you do need to have control over borrowing, Mr. Speaker, which is why we, unlike the party opposite, are disciplined with regard to the public finances. But these are the issues that we should be focused on. I saw that the SNP yesterday, Mr. Speaker, had a meeting to discuss their future, but the only thing they managed to decide was that they should send Nicola Sturgeon some flowers. So can he tell us, did he sign the card?
Stephen Flynn. Mr. Speaker, respectfully, I think the Prime Minister needs to grow up. There is an elephant in this here chamber when it comes to the dire economic circumstances facing the UK, and that's Brexit. The Tory benches, they don't want to accept it, and the Labour Party, they don't want to talk about it. But whether it's food prices, energy prices, or indeed mortgage prices, households in Scotland are being shafted by Brexit. So can I ask the Prime Minister, will he apologise for the cycle of misery that Westminster has caused?
Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, while his party leader calls Nicola Sturgeon the most impressive politician in Europe, we are getting on delivering for the people of Scotland, Mr. Speaker, paying half of their energy bills, making sure that pensions rise, making sure that there's direct support for those who need it with the cost of living, and crucially, ensuring that we secure over 200,000 jobs by supporting Scotland's North Sea oil and gas industry, something opposed by his party.
Paul McCartney.
Good afternoon, Speaker. Lincoln will soon benefit from £20 million worth of levelling up funding to deliver a traffic bridge over the railway to stop the city being permanently gridlocked by the Labour City Council's huge Western Growth Corridor, housing Island. This is truly levelling up for areas of the North in action. Will my right honourable friend affirm his commitment to my Lincoln constituents and businesses that he and his government will continue to help level up Lincoln and other areas in the north of our great country?
My honourable friend is a fantastic advocate for his constituents. I'm glad that he and Lincoln City Council were successful in their £20 million levelling up fund bid. The scheme will see 2 new bridges built across the railway line, improving access, reducing congestion. I very much look forward to seeing these plans progress, and he and I both share an ambition to make sure that we level up not just in Lincoln but across the country.
Neil Hamby.
Mr. Speaker, the Leader of the Opposition recently ventured out of London visiting my constituency to deliver a one-nation British Labour vision of Scotland. However, he neglected to mention that he intends to continue London's plunder of Scotland's vast energy wealth, just like the Tories, continuing the economic vandalism of Brexit, just like the Tories, and deny Scotland's right to self-determination, just like the Tories. So perhaps the Prime Minister can tell me which London party leader is the greatest threat to Scottish democracy, the Tory to my right or the Tory to my left?
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I apologise because I didn't hear fully the honourable gentleman's question, but from what I could gather, I think he probably agrees with me that the Leader of the Opposition is not the right person to lead our country.
Theresa Millions.
I'm really worried about the cost of living. Will the Prime Minister agree that it is completely wrong for Labour to be introducing new ULEZ driving?
Prime Minister.
Well, Mr. Speaker, my right honourable friend is absolutely right to raise this important issue. While we are getting on providing significant support to families with the cost of living, the Labour Mayor of London, to whom transport is devolved, is busily putting it up, imposing the ULEZ charge against the overwhelming views of residents and businesses. It is disappointing he is not listening to the British public and the public in outer London, but what's even more, his plan to raise costs on working families is totally backed by the Leader of the Opposition.
Kim Johnson. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Prime Minister, new data from the End Child Poverty Coalition and Loughborough University are showing that your government's austerity measures have plunged 4.2 million children into poverty, 70% of them in working households. In Liverpool, Riverside, 42% are living in poverty, up 7% since 2015. So can the Prime Minister commit to scrapping the cruel and ineffectual two-child limit to lift 250,000 children out of poverty and meet with anti-poverty organisations?
Mr. Speaker, I'd just like to gently point out to the Honourable Lady that there are in fact 400,000 fewer children in absolute poverty than in 2010. And we also know, Mr. Speaker, that work is the best route out of poverty for families. So with employment, as we saw yesterday, at record levels, I'm pleased that there are now over 600,000 fewer children in workless households in 2010. On the specific policy that she raises, it actually ensures fairness, Mr. Speaker, by asking families on benefits to make decisions as families supporting themselves solely through work.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, earlier this week, the all-party group on coalfield communities published our report into next steps in levelling up the former coalfield communities, which I know the Prime Minister has received a copy of his inbox. As a proud MP for Newcastle-under-Lyme, I'm delighted with the funding that we've had from government through the Future High Streets Fund and the Town Deal, but there's always more to do. So will the Prime Minister commit to reading our report, carefully considering our recommendations and working out what more we can do to level up our coalfield communities across the whole of the United Kingdom?
Prime Minister. Well, Mr. Speaker, I very much welcome the work of the APPG for coalfield communities and indeed the breadth and ambition of their policy contributions. We are committed to levelling up the UK by spreading opportunity more equally across the country, investing in and empowering places that need it the most, and including coalfield communities. And I look forward to discussing and hearing from the Honourable Gentleman further.
Wendy Chamberlain.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My vulnerable constituent, whose finances are held in trust, was wrongly billed £4,000 by two energy companies that now no longer exist as a result of the energy market crisis. The energy is one of the most basic services, and there is no charter of rights for consumers. We still don't have this resolved. Does the Prime Minister agree that we need such a charter?
Mr. Speaker, I'll happily ensure that the appropriate Minister writes the Honourable Lady with a specific response on her constituents so we can try and resolve that issue.
Gary Sambrook.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Recently, the Independent Regulator for Social Housing issued a notice against Birmingham City Council for the state of its social housing, with 23,000 homes not meeting the decent home standard, over 17,000 homes not receiving asbestos checks, over 15,000 houses not having electrical safety checks, and over 1,000 homes not having fire risk assessments. Rather refreshingly and honestly and astonishingly, a leaked Labour memo put the blame for this at the heart of the Labour group in Birmingham. And so, does the Prime Minister agree with me, Mr. Speaker, but it's time that we have serious intervention in Birmingham to make sure that people can have decent homes to live in?
Mr. Speaker, the failings identified in Birmingham are wholly unacceptable. The Regulator for Social Housing has made clear that Birmingham must take immediate action to address those issues and will be monitoring the Council's progress closely. I also understand that the Secretary of State has requested a meeting with Birmingham City Council and will be holding them to account.
David Hamilton.
Mr. Speaker, Ilkley Homes builds thousands of modular houses every year in its factory near Leeds, many of which are completely carbon zero, meaning no bills at all for residents. But today, it is facing the prospect of collapse, putting 4,200 future homes and 1,500 current jobs at risk. Now, given that the Home Builders Federation says new housing units could drop to just 120,000 next year, does the Prime Minister now accept that his government's scrapping of housing targets was the wrong decision?
Well, Mr. Speaker, it wouldn't be right for me to comment on the circumstances of any individual company, but what I can say is I make absolutely no apology for respecting what local communities want in their local areas. Whilst the party opposite may want to ride roughshod over the views of local communities and impose top-down housing targets and carpet over the Greenbelt, that is not something that this government will do.
Robert Courts. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As we speak, the Royal Air Force is operating the Hercules farewell flypast over all parts of the UK. For over 107 years, my constituents of 47 Squadron have defended our country, including over 50 operating the legendary Hercules. Now, as the squadron stands down, would my right honourable friend join the whole House in paying tribute to this remarkable record of service of this amazing squadron? They're all men and women who have made their country proud.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I join my honourable friend in paying tribute to 47 Squadron. Their association with the Hercules now stretches for 45 years, and although their vital work at the heart of defence has often been unheralded, the squadron has served with professionalism and distinction throughout. I think the whole House will join me in saying that the personnel and crews can be rightly proud, and they have our full thanks.
Mr. Speaker, my constituent Sarah has been let down by this government. Her elderly father, a veteran living with cancer, has developed serious heart problem. His next appointment is scheduled for November. In the cost of living crisis, my constituent paid for private care, as he cannot wait 5 months for an appointment. He has now been diagnosed with heart failure. This is the reality of Tory Britain. Elderly and sick people neglected and turned away. The Conservatives have broken the NHS and they've broken Britain. The British public deserves so much better. Only the Labour Party can deliver this. So when will the Prime Minister call a general election?
Well, Mr. Speaker, I am very sorry to hear about, I believe it was Sarah's father, and I hope he has a speedy and gets all the treatment that he needs. With regard to the NHS, Mr. Speaker, we're investing record sums in the NHS, but also with more doctors, more nurses, more diagnostic scans to identify cancers earlier, and with elective surgical hubs to get the wait lists down. We're starting to see progress, having practically eliminated those waiting 18 months, but there is more work to do, Mr. Speaker, and I'm pleased that the NHS is fully supporting our plan and getting on with delivering it for people.
Hello, Colburn.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Can I thank the Prime Minister and the Health Secretary for the recent announcement that the Epsom and St Helier NHS Trust can proceed with plans to improve and upgrade St Helier and build a brand new hospital in Sutton. Now, the NHS Trust is really ready to go. They're further along than other trusts in that cohort. So can the Prime Minister assure me that when the Trust is ready to go, the Treasury and the Government will be ready to give the green light to them as well?
Prime Minister.
Well, can I thank my honourable friend for all his campaigning and focus on this issue for his constituents. We remain committed to the new hospital scheme for the Epsom and St Helier University Hospitals Trust. It will deliver brand new state-of-the-art facilities as part of our new hospital programme. I know the department are working closely with the Trust to make sure that we can progress works as soon as possible and expect the new hospital to be delivered by 2030.
Mr. Virendra Sharma.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Throughout the war in Ukraine, the largest mobile operator, Starr, has kept its services operating at 93% and is investing millions in Ukraine's recovery. Will the Prime Minister therefore use next week's Ukraine Recovery Conference to bring together governments and the businesses to invest in Ukraine's telecoms recovery and ensure the people of Ukraine are kept connected with their loved ones throughout the war?
Prime Minister. Can I thank my honourable friend for the very thoughtful and powerful question. He's absolutely right about the aim of next week's Ukraine Recovery Conference Summit, which we're very proud to be hosting, and indeed the theme of that summit is how to bring in private capital to help rebuild Ukraine after this devastating war, and I join him in paying tribute to all those companies who, in the face of the onslaught that they are are seeing are providing essential services for the people of Ukraine. They deserve our absolute admiration and support.
Sally Ann Hart.
Mr. Speaker, last week we acknowledged and celebrate carers, of which there are thousands across beautiful Hastings and Rye. Would the Prime Minister join me in thanking them all for their priceless value and congratulate Hastings Voluntary Action and the Isabel Blackman Centre in receiving local care for the Carers Awards for their support of unpaid carers in our communities, and the outstanding CQC-rated Radfield Home Care in Hastings, which recently won a national award?
Prime Minister.
Well, I join my honourable friend in congratulating carers in her constituency for all their awards. I'm also incredibly proud of our health and care staff across the country and recognise their extraordinary commitment. And I'd also like to pay tribute to unpaid carers and young carers for all that they are doing in Hastings and across our nation.
Gelson.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Funding to bring desperately needed inpatient mental health beds to Bedford is sitting in the bank account of our local mental health trust, not to be touched because of this government's ridiculous capital spending limits. So will the Prime Minister will meet with East London Foundation Trust, apply some common sense and find a way to release the cash to get this mental health unit built so my constituents don't have to travel miles to access services?
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we are investing record sums in NHS capital, and particularly I can tell the honourable member that we're putting more money into mental health services and taking more action than any previous government. At the heart of the NHS long-term plan is the largest expansion of mental health services in a generation. I'll ensure that the appropriate minister writes to him with an update on the conversations between his trust and their local capital plans.
Henry Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. What assessments has the Prime Minister made of the Eurozone being in recession and the UK economy experiencing growth?
Mr. Speaker, as we've seen recently, it's not just the OBR, but the OECD, the Bank of England and the IMF, who have all upgraded the growth forecast for the UK economy. You know, whilst the party opposite may want to talk it down, it's the Conservatives that are delivering.
Prime Minister, 39 women have died violently in Northern Ireland since 2017. The police are called to a domestic violence incident every 16 minutes, and ours is now one of the most dangerous regions in Europe to be a woman. Stormont has consulted on a strategy to tackle violence against women, but there are no ministers to take it forward. The outstanding Women's Aid Federation learned last month that their core funding is being taken away. In the demoralising absence of a government, will the Prime Minister work with me and others to ensure that strategy is enacted and funded so that we can tackle the cultures and behaviours that are having such devastating impacts on women in Northern Ireland?
Well, Mr. Speaker, I join with the Honourable Lady in saying that it's absolutely right that we do everything to stamp out violence against women and girls. That's why the government passed the landmark Domestic Abuse Act, set up a 24/7 victim line and quadruple funding for victim support. She's also right to highlight, though, that the people of Northern Ireland are not getting the local government that they need and deserve, and I want to see that as much as she does, and I'll continue to work hard to bring that about.
Philip Davis.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. One of the socialist landmines the Prime Minister has inherited from the former member for Uxbridge and South Ruislip, I'm sure the Prime Minister remembers him, he's the one who said that we should be more conservative. If only he'd had a majority of 80 and been Prime Minister, he might have been able to do something about it. But if one of the landmines he left behind was the idiotic triumph of the nanny state of banning buy one get one free and other special offers on products that the Department of Health thought was unhealthy. Now, at the best of times, that is an idiotic triumph for the nanny state, but during a cost of living crisis, it is utterly bonkers. So can I ask the Prime Minister if he will intervene, pursue a more conservative agenda, as the former member for Uxbridge would want him to do, and scrap this ridiculous policy?
Minister. Well, can I thank my honourable friend? He's long highlighted this policy, which is why after I took office, given the concerns that he and others had raised about the impact on the cost of living, we already have, as you know, postponed the introduction of this policy. No final decisions have been made, but I'll continue to take what he said very seriously in all our deliberations.
Stephen Doherty.
Mr. Speaker, Citizens Advice Cymru have
told me of soaring numbers of people coming to them struggling with housing affordability. And last year, the monthly cost of a new mortgage rose by 61% for the average semi-detached house, and most fixed-rate mortgages coming to an end in this current 12-month period were set at interest rates below 2%. So the crisis will worsen for homeowners and renters. So what advice does the Prime Minister have for my constituents suffering the consequences of Tory economic chaos? Should they cut back on food, switch off the electric and gas, or get further into Tory-fuelled expensive debt?
Well, Mr. Speaker, our number one priority is to halve inflation so we can reduce the upward pressure on interest rates. His constituents should know that what would make that task absolutely worse is his party's plans for tens of billions of pounds of unfunded borrowing, which would just exacerbate the situation. But what I would say is for those homeowners that are worried, what they can do is ask for help through the Support for Mortgage Interest Payment Scheme, which has recently been adjusted. That support is there available for them. And my honourable friend, the Chancellor, has spoken with the FCA to ensure that banks treat all those in the difficulty with the fairness and compassion that they need.
Dr. Kieran Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I was pleased to deliver my report into the opportunities provided by deep geothermal last week, and I'm looking forward to visiting the opening of the deep geothermal plant at the Eden project championed by the member for St Austin and Newquay next week. Will the Prime Minister join me in meeting with MPs that want to join him in having the benefits of a deep geothermal plant in their own constituencies?
Prime Minister. Well, can I thank my honourable friend for his work on this report? I know it's an area that he's rightly passionate about. The government does support the development of geothermal projects in the UK, providing it can be done at an acceptable cost to consumers and in an environmentally friendly manner. I will ensure that he gets a meeting with a relevant minister to discuss his report and ideas further.
Lillian Greenwood.
Mr. Speaker, Nottingham is devastated by the senseless attacks that took place on our streets yesterday. The thoughts and prayers of the whole city are with the family and friends of those killed and with those injured. It is absolutely heartbreaking to see the pictures of University of Nottingham students, Barnaby and Grace, whose young lives, so full of potential, have been tragically cut short. As ever, we thank the emergency services who acted quickly and courageously to save lives. Will the Prime Minister ensure that his government provides the police, the universities and others in our city with everything that they need to support our constituents following these horrendous events?
Mr. Speaker, like the rest of the country, I've been moved by the heartbreaking tributes from their loved ones. This is an extraordinarily difficult time and every parent's worst nightmare. I think the hearts of the whole country are with the families and all those who have lost their lives. As the Honourable Lady will, I'm sure, understand, I can't comment further at this stage, given there's an ongoing situation, but the Home Secretary will be making a statement after Prime Minister's questions.
Final question, David Simmons.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, my constituents in Ickenham and South Hayfield benefit enormously from the work of the police based in the nearby Uxbridge police station, which only remains open because of the campaign by the Conservative-led council to stop the Mayor of London from closing it down. Does my right honourable friend agree that as we invest in more police, those police need good local police stations to work from?
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I think my honourable friend put the point very well. Whether it's campaigning to keep open their local police station or indeed opposing the ULEZ charge which would put up costs for hard-working families, it's the Conservatives in Uxbridge that are delivering for their community.
That completes Prime Minister's questions. Right, we come to the statement. Home Secretary.
With permission, Mr. Speaker, I would like to make a statement